Yo, what's going on everyone? Brian and Jim here with Drink a Beer and Play a Game, and today we're checking out Cliffhanger. Wait, I thought we just did that the other day.
No, this is like better Cliffhanger.
Why? Because it's for the Super NES and Genesis?
Yeah. More bits.
Let's just get into it.
A lot more bits. Double bits. Ow! Released in 1993, this was once again published by Sony ImageSoft. It's definitely a step up from the NES version. It came out on the Super NES and the Sega Genesis. It's prettier, it's got more gameplay, but let's see if it's actually better.
So graphically, Jim is correct.
It's white!
Yes, it's white and gray.
It's so white!
There is way too much of a dominant color, and we get it. You're in the mountains. It's gonna be those colors, and the movie is mostly white, but dear God, just add a tiny bit more shading. Sure, sometimes in the backgrounds they have those pretty mountains and
trees!
Yes. And the scrolling for the avalanche and the bats, it's actually not too bad. The animations are once again decent. Honestly, the best looking thing about this game are the sprites. Sure, they keep reusing the same enemies, but Stallone looks pretty decent. And look at his picture up in the corner. It's almost perfect. So, as you see from our scores, I gave it a 4, Jim gave it a 3, and as far as beer, I'm just gonna add 1, 'cause Jim's butthurt.
What? Alright, the sound. Well, the sound effects are okay. You get knife slashing sounds, you kind of get, you know, thuddy punch and kick sounds, and there's some occasional other shit, but it's not that much here, but it's not a lot to work with either, so it's fine. The music, again, there's only a very few amount of tracks, and there's one main track that plays over and over, and you're gonna hear it a lot more often than you did in the NES, because it's a longer game. Now, obviously the sound's gonna be a little bit different between the Genesis and the Super NES, because different hardware. On the Super NES, for once, the Super NES sounds more bassy. It's got more lower, you know, resonations, it's got a lot more thuddy noise to it. It's not as high-pitched and tinny as the Genesis is. The Genesis sounds like a bad third-party Western-produced kind of thing that the Genesis was kind of unfortunately known for, with weak third-party Western support. The Super NES, I'm not going to say is great, but it's at least faster-paced, it's a little more up-tempo, and it overall just sounds better. But they're so similar structurally that we kept the scores the same. We gave it 3s. And as far as beers go, I'm gonna add 2 beers for hearing that damn theme song over and over and fucking over again. God damn it!
Well, if you haven't noticed from the presentation so far, this game is kind of a poor man's Double Dragon mixed with some shitty platforming areas, but I gotta say, the control inputs are actually fine. They are a little stiff at times, and the jumping mechanic can get annoying as dick, but the combat is fine. You have a punch button, a kick button, and this little spin kick, which will take away some of your health, so use it really sparingly. Other than that, you have these climbing sections, which are fine, I guess, and then running sections. So, we couldn't really knock the control that well, but it is one of those games that as you're playing, you just feel like you're really trudging through mud, or in this case, snow. Get it, Jim?
So white!
Damn it! So, as you see from the scores...
It's like living in Wyoming!
Yes?
There's a lot of white people there.
What's that have to do with snow?
White. Ow!
Anyway, I gave it a 6, Jim gave it a 5. I didn't really have as much problem with it as Jim did. But then again, I'm better than Jim, so...
What?!
As far as beer, I'm only gonna add 1 for Jim sucking.
Alright, gameplay. Guess what? It's a fucking beat 'em up. And it's not particularly a good one. It's not a terrible one either. It's competent. But it's just boring, and the game is so poorly programmed it can only handle maybe 3 sprites on screen at a time. So it's not like you're ever really gonna be surrounded by guys, but just having 2 people beating the crap out of you can be rough enough. The game is bitch balls hard. It's so unfair. Besides the fact that the enemies take way too many hits, you have these lovely insta-kill sections. And what these are basically a memorization game, because you have to do them over and over and over again, because you're going to keep failing and failing and failing. And guess what? When you fail, it's game over and back to the start of the game. And you can go through the whole thing again until you get good. Or you can just emulate and use save states, which makes it easier. Outside of that, you have maybe 2 boss fights, 2 or 3, You get to fight a chopper, so there's that. Oh, and shitty platforming segments. So overall, Bri gave it a 5 and I gave it a 4. Basically, your preference on the cusp of average or just below. And as far as beer goes, I'm gonna add 2 beers for the 2 main sections, fighting and running.
I'll keep originality short. Once again, this did actually come out the same time as the NES game, so it kind of shares points with being the first Cliffhanger game. Other than that, I guess those insta-kill, like, you know, avalanche and bat situations were semi-unique for the time. We're just kind of pulling shit out of our ass because this game is just not original. So as you see, we both gave it 2s. I'm just gonna add 2 beers because, come on, seriously? They couldn't have thrown in that part from the NES game where you kill a guy and then ride him down a mountain like a snowboard. I love that part!
Replayability. Hey, did I mention before that this game's hard? Because it sure is bitch-ballingly hard. And that's the only reason it got 3s from us. Because the gameplay never changes, the endings never change, but it's a hard sumbitch, and if you want to beat it, you're gonna have to play it a lot. And as far as beers go, I'm gonna add 2 beers for the 2 insta-kill sections that will make you play this over and over.
So overall, yes, this is a much better game than the NES title, but that does not mean that it's a good game by itself. If you're a diehard Cliffhanger fan, Stallone fan, or just average to below average beat 'em up fan, then this is the game for you. We would have liked to seen a little more variety added in there, but they were just trying to cash in on a semi-popular movie title. So, what the hell. When it comes to our scores, we both gave it a 4. We recognize it's below average, and there are plenty of better beat 'em ups for you to play on the Genesis or Super NES, so you shouldn't really waste your time with this game. When we combine all of our scores together, it rounds out to a 4.2. Because the control really is acceptable for a game like this, and the graphics, while boring, mundane, and repetitive, the presentation's not the worst thing in the world. So once again, if you really do want to get this game, please don't spend more than like $2 for it. Unless you're just crazy like Jim and like to waste your money on bad games.
What? I don't know what you're talking about.
Jim, how much you just pay for that fighting golf game?
You mean Lee Trevino's fighting golf?
Yeah.
$3.
See? Too much.
Yeah, you're probably right.
When it comes to the beer pairing, I'm actually going to have to go with the Trogs Hopback Amber Ale. This is once again a really smooth beer. It's not the strongest, it's not the tastiest, but for a game that's below average, you probably shouldn't bust out your best beer. Besides, this is a beer that's just going to give you a good enough buzz to maybe be able to beat this game. But remember to drink your beers and play your games responsibly. As always, guys, thanks for checking out this video, and if you enjoyed it, make sure you give us a thumbs up, leave some comments, or better yet, why not subscribe? Till next time, guys, cheers.